a quick rundown on how to set up the copter on the computer. Obviously, you're going to want to have the USB cable installed. It's quite fiddly to get it in there. As I mentioned before, I've got mine on a ruler, and I just use the ruler to push it in the hole in the end there. It's recommended as well to remove your props, but because I'm just when I did my setup, I actually had no props on it. I've left the props on now because it's already set up, and I'm just going to walk you through it on the mission planner, basically how to set it up and what to do, what I've done. But as I mentioned before, remove your props when setting up. Okay, so I'm just going to plug it in to the computer via the USB, and you'll see it starts to light up. I'm going to hit connect on the mission planner, and you can see it will start to get the parameters from the copter. When you get these the Hobby King pilot from Hobby King, they normally have a firmware already on them, so you should be able to click connect, and it should load some sort of a firmware up for you, whether it be RG Plane or RG Copter. I'm not sure. They might be different. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to Initial Setup, and there's a wizard here. Click on Wizard, and you're going to want to go through all of these steps. There's 16 steps. You're going to want to go through it. Basically, it asks you, the first step is to decide what kind of frame you've got. Obviously, we're using a Spider or a V frame, they call it. Yeah, you click V, and then you're going to want to choose your firmware, and it's going to go through some different calibration processes, compass calibration, accelerometer calibration, radio calibration. You're going to need to bind your transmitter to your receiver and set that up. Your flight modes, the fail-safe as well will need to be set. I've not actually done that at the moment, the fail-safe, because I'm going to do it at a later date, because the Tyrannus handles a fail-safe in a different way. Yeah, like I say, go through the setup wizard. That's pretty much everything in that wizard is what you need to do to get the thing in the air. Once you've done that, you're going to want to unplug it from disconnect and unplug from the computer, and you're going to need to check the motor, the direction of the motors. So you're going to want to turn it on as if you're going to fly it with the battery, no USB, and arm it. And you will need to check which motors are spinning in which direction. They need to all be spinning in the right direction. Basically, the two top motors spin this way, and this one spins the opposite direction, obviously. And these spin from the back in, like that. And on the opposite side, it's obviously mirrored. But I will put a link in below this video on how to get into the wiki, and it explains everything there on how to set it up. But basically, if your motor is turning the wrong way, all you have to do is turn over the copter itself, and you're going to want to reverse two of these wires, any two, it doesn't matter. So like if, for example, if this one was spinning the wrong way, I would probably turn the black and the red one over. Just swap them over and it will change the direction. One thing to note for this copter as well is, because the board is mounted at a 90-degree angle to what it should be, you need to change the AHRS orientation parameter. And to get to that, you need to go into you need to close the wizard, config and tuning, full parameter list, and then in here it's this one here. It's quite near the top. You need to change that to number 6. Which is your 270 degrees, and that will sort it out. Because if you don't do that, basically when you tilt the copter to the forward, it will think it's tilting left, because you've moved the board through 90 degrees in theory. One more thing you will need to do is to calibrate the speed controllers, and to do that, you need to, obviously not connected to the computer, you need to set the throttle to full, turn on the radio, set throttle to full, and then connect your battery, and you will see, you can look through this through the hole, and you will see the lights on the RG Pilot. They will start to blink through a sequence. You need to turn off the copter by removing the power from the battery, and turn it back on. And once you turn it back on, it will go into calibration mode. The speed controllers will beep. Once they've beeped, you need to lower the throttle, and they will beep again. And then you've got to be very careful at this point, because you can now raise your throttle and the motors will spin. So when you do this, make sure you've got no propellers on. Once you've done that, you can turn off the copter, lower your throttle again, and that's your speed controllers calibrated. That's very important, that you need to make sure that gets done correctly. I would advise to do it that way. There is another way to do it in the wiki, where you can calibrate each individual speed controller separately, but I prefer to do them all the same, all at the same time. One thing I like to check is the vibrations, and to do that you need to go into here, standard parameters, and you need to scroll down until you get to log bit mask, it's called. I'll scroll down here, log bit mask. It's about 1/3 of the way down, and you need to change that to default plus IMU. And basically what that does is it's going to log the data coming out of the IMU, and then you can go and check your vibrations. That's all listed in the wiki as well, but you need to make sure that you're not getting too much vibrations from the copter. Obviously the whole design has been designed to reduce vibrations, but you still need to check them. Okay, I'm just going to show you how to actually to check your vibrations. Once you've made a flight, you're going to want to go into log download, and you're going to want to download the latest log that will be listed in there. I don't know if it will work up here. Yeah, it will open up a window like this, and the logs will be listed in this area here. You just want to go and click on the bottom one and click on download this log. I've already done that, and I've also erased all the logs from the copter to save the space. To check the vibrations, you're going to want to click on the last button, and you're going to want to open that log. In my case, it is this one. Open it, and you get this window up here. I'm just going to maximise it. You can go in here on this bit in the middle, and there's an option vibrations, and you can see the vibrations here. You're going to want to zoom in on a place. You see these spikes here. They are when I'm landing and taking off, because they bounce on the ground, and that obviously creates vibrations that are not there in flight. I'm just going to zoom in on this bit at the beginning here. As you can see, the vibrations are very, very minimal. They say the X and the Y axis should be below or in between -5 and 5, and by the looks of it they don't ever go above 1.5 on my copter. And the Z should never go up to 5 and below 15, I think it is. It's also in between this 5 bracket, and that also stays right around the 1-2 mark, apart from this here, this spike, which is probably me playing with the yaw in flight. And that's how to check the vibrations. Another thing you need to do is called a compass MOT, and basically what you have to do is you have to remove the props, turn them over, and rotate them all once. So you would have the copter pushing down to the floor instead of lifting off. And then you're going to want to go into terminal, click connect, and then click setup, typing setup, and then typing compass mod. And you're going to want to raise your throttle to about half, and then lower it and press enter, and it will tell you what your compass mod value is. In my case it was 20%, which is okay. I've had better and I've had worse with other copters. 20's more than fine. They say the limit is 30%. If you're over 30%, you're in sort of a grey area, and you should be careful, because the copter can have problems when in loiter mode with interference. Right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about programming the MinimOSD and setting up the FPV camera. Basically, what you need to do is you need to go onto the Arducopter website and you need to download the config tool for the MinimOSD. I'll include a link below this video where it is. Basically, once you download it, you don't need to install it, it just runs directly. And you get something that looks like this, and you've got up here on this top corner, I've maximised the window, you've got config, panel 1 and panel 2. Basically these are where you can select, you can click on items and move them around as you want them basically. The video mode, I left it as PAL. There is a jumper on the MinimOSD that's not used anymore. They don't mention it very much, but it's not used anymore. You can actually set the video mode now through the firmware. So basically up here you have video mode, NTSC and PAL. In the options you have the options to upgrade the firmware. If you've not, mine came with firmware on it, so I haven't upgraded it, I've left it as it is. But if you for some reason need to upgrade your firmware, you can go on the internet and you can download the firmware, click on upgrade, and you'll get another window to select the file and it'll upgrade it for you. Obviously mine's not connected at the minute. To connect it, I use this cable here, which is basically it's a FTDI cable. On one end it's a USB plug, and inside there's a chip. And the chip breaks out into this FTDI plug here. What you need to do is remove the MinimOSD from the copter, obviously because we attached that with Velcro. You can now get it off really easily. You need to make sure you leave enough slack in the wires to get it off. You're going to want to unplug that plug there. Plug in this one. Obviously the right way round. There is on the board, there is a mark where the GRN, where GRN is green. It's the green wire from the cable. You're going to want to plug that in, and the lights will light up on the MinimOSD. You need to get both lights lighting up. Obviously you need to have both the jumpers that are on here. They need to be soldered closed, so that all the board is being powered from the 5 volts from the analog side. Once you've done that, you can go down here and select your COM port of your FTDI cable. In my case it's COM port 4. Read from OSD, and if you get done downloading data, it means it's read all the data that's on the board. You can then go to panel 1 and you can move these things around and set how you want your OSD to look. I've already done that, and that's how I want mine to look, but basically you can click on the things and you can move them around and have them set up exactly how you want them. And once you've done that, you need to click Save Current Tab to OSD. For every time you modify a tab, you have to click Save Current Tab. It doesn't save all the tabs when you click that. Another thing to note is your video mode. If you find it's not working, in my case it wasn't working when I first got it. It was set to NTSC. I changed that to PAL and it worked, but I had some issues with the on-screen display not being able to use all the blocks around it. So basically I had to move everything in a little bit. But on my monitor it displays fine. It displays exactly how I want it. In fact, I will plug it back in and I will turn on the monitor and I'll show you how to set up the camera. Well, I'll show you what options you have to set up on the camera. Right, I just want to show you now how to set up the camera. Obviously I left on my programming board, the OSD board for the camera, when we did the build. You're going to want to turn on your radio, turn on your monitor and have all that running. You're obviously going to need to set your video transmitter to the same channel as your video receiver. Plug in the power, and you'll see the Arducam OSD firmware booting up, waiting for Mavlink heartbeats, it will say. Requesting data stream, and then it will load up. That's obviously the Minim OSD data stream that's being displayed on my screen. And I've got basically my battery voltage down here, flight mode, time, wind speed and direction, GPS data down here, armed, disarmed, my altitude, my My distance from home and my home arrow are displayed up here as well, but because I've not got any GPS down here, they're obviously not being displayed. You're going to press the middle button, and then you get you're obviously going to have both screens on your screen now. You're going to have the menu from the camera and the OSD screen as well, so it's a bit confusing. I would advise setting your camera up before setting your OSD. So basically go into your software and make your OSD display nothing, basically, and then set up your camera how you want it, and then go in and set up your OSD again how you want it. Basically you've got different settings in here that you can change. I've left all mine as default because I found that it worked best with the default setting. One more thing which is very critical to how the copter flies is you're obviously going to need to tune it. I'm going to include a config file for mine, how I've tuned it, and you can basically download the file and upload that directly to yours, and it should fly exactly the same as mine if you've used the same motors, speed controllers, and built it exactly how I've built it in my videos. But if you've decided to use different motors or different speed controllers, you're probably going to want to tune it. And to do that, you're going to want to go up to here, config and tuning. Obviously when you're connected, you need to have your radio turned on.
Welcome to Toronto's.
And you're going to go into base extended tuning, and in here you have an option, channel 6 option, and you're going to need to set that to rate, roll, pitch, KP, which is that one there. Mine, because I've already tuned mine a little bit, it's set at 2 now, but the default is 0.15. So you're going to want to set the minimum at 0.08, and mine was 0.28, the max. And basically I've got that then on this tuning knob here, and I can, in flight, while I'm flying, I can turn this knob and I can see how the copter reacts. And it basically, as you turn the knob, it changes between these two values here. So obviously at that point on the knob, mine value was 2, so I left it as 2. Once you've done that, you're going to need to come back into here, plug it back in and refresh the parameters, and you're going to need to read it, what the value is. Then you're going to want to turn the channel 6 option off and write the parameters, and it will write them to the board and they'll be saved forever, and you won't ever, when you turn the knob, it won't change them back. You can use this channel 6 option as well for there's so many things you can tune in here. Loiter, you stabilize. You can tune everything. If you've got anything you need to tune, I would always advise use the channel 6 because you can tune it in flight and you can see exactly what it's doing when it's doing it, basically. Right, so by now you should have your firmware installed, you should have checked your vibrations, and basically you should be ready for tuning now. Like I say, we set up you need to set up the tuning knob on your transmitter. I've got mine set up here, so when I turn this knob I set the rate, roll and pitch KP setting. Yeah, basically tune the quad and that's it, you're done. One thing to note on this quad is it's quite hard to get the, well I say hard, it's quite, it's a bit fiddly to get the USB connector plugged in. Basically what I've got is if you look here, I've got my cable on a ruler at a slight angle like that, and basically what you have to do to get the USB plug in is you have to take out the battery, and in there is a hole that lines up with the USB slot, and basically what you have to do is you have to put your ruler down there and get the plug to go in the USB slot. What I do is I normally plug it in there and I leave it in, and then I have a USB extension cable which I just plug and unplug into that, and that stays in there for the time I'm doing all my programming.